preserving my harvest, I think, is the hardest part of the year. Hey garden friends, my name is Alexa. I'm happy to have you here. In today's video, I'm just going to be sharing a little bit of my thoughts and feelings on the August garden and where I'm at this point of the year. This part of the year is really hard. I'm just going to be candid and upfront with you. If you want to grow a garden, I highly encourage you to do it. I think growing a garden is one of the most beautiful things you can do. It is so good for your mind, body, and soul in so many ways. And one of the best benefits of it is you get a harvest. You grow this food and it produces something that you can eat and nourish your body with, nourish your family's body with. And it's a really great feeling. However, I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that it can also be really hard, especially this time of year, especially when it matters the most. It can be extremely hard, and that's how I am feeling right now. It's mid-August, and beginning of the year, I was so excited to plant my garden. It snows where I live here in Northeast Ohio. We get a lot of snow. It gets cold. I suffer from seasonal affective disorder, SAD, whereas when we lose sun, when the cloud cover comes back in and it's mostly cloudy for 6 months out of the year, I get really depressed and I get sad, and it's because of lack of sunlight. And I have to supplement with vitamin D tablets to try and get some of that vitamin D back into my body. Just because I can't get enough of it in the food, so I have to supplement because we just don't have this beautiful sun. And so by the time March comes around, I am like rearing to go to get outside, to get in my garden, to start seeds, get, my tomato plants going and pepper plants, and get out in the garden and rake up all the dead stuff from last year, have that really beautiful fresh layer of compost on top of my garden beds, and just have all this excitement for what is to come, what this place will turn into. Because I've been gardening now for over 8 years, and I know that at the beginning of the year when everything is dead and brown looking, it won't be long until this space is just full of life again. That's all great. By this time of year, when everything is so full of life, it is full of life, and life needs to be cared for and maintained. And that can be really hard when you can't devote your personal life to your garden. I would love to be out here every single day, weeding and harvesting and pruning and doing all the things. If I could, I would be out here all day. But I have other responsibilities, adulting here, and I have to go to work, and I have to feed my kids, and I have to do my laundry, and I have to wash my dishes, and I have to spend time with my husband. And, I want to do all these things. I love to do all these things. Maybe not dishes and laundry, but I love spending time with my husband and taking care of my kids. So there's, a time management piece that goes along with gardening, especially if you're growing at a significant scale. I have about a 2,000 square foot garden. I am growing at a significant scale for a home grower. If you have just a couple raised beds, you may not feel so much pressure to do your gardening work. But for me, I do have that pressure because I grow a lot of food that I want to preserve. Buying organic produce hurts my budget. We can't really afford to buy organic produce, so when I do buy produce, it's usually not organic, and I know all the things that come along with not buying organic. It's not good for you. And so if I can grow my organic produce, I want to do that, but that also involves me preserving my produce. So I grow tons of peppers and tomatoes to make like pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce, things that I know my family are going to use. And to buy those things from the store, there's a lot of added sugar, a lot of added preservatives and things that doesn't need to be in that if you make it yourself. For like peppers, I like to have pickled pepper rings and even frozen peppers, or make our own pepper powder. I grow a lot of greens like kale and spinach and chard, and I can usually keep those going for most of the year, even through the really cold months. Those things hang on a little bit longer, can handle the cold. But I also will freeze and will blanch and freeze those greens. Same thing with green beans. I'll can green beans or I'll freeze them. Squashes, all the food that's coming out of my garden, I am trying to preserve it. We're eating it fresh, but then I'm also preserving the excess. So that way we have produce, organic produce, for most of the year that we can pull from the freezer and the pantry and eat that. All of that is so worth it to me. It's so worthy. It's so valid. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel good that I'm giving my family good food. And it makes me happy to be able to share that on, social media platforms and give educational content to, help others do the same. Because I think it's really important, and we're getting into, more people are aware of the need to be growing your own food. Big agriculture business is not very glamorous. It's actually pretty unfortunate what goes on in the industry of trying to feed 1 billion people. They can't do it the way that I'm doing it in my own backyard. There's just no way to meet the demand to get the volume of food needed out to billions of people. So those farms, they're using pesticides, they're using chemical fertilizers. They aren't growing in a regenerative, sustainable practice. It's killing the land. But they also have a demand to feed a lot of people at not a lot of cost. So there are a lot of complexities around big agriculture. And what can we even do about it except, do what we can in our own backyards. I know not everyone has any kind of backyard, and a lot of people live in apartments and things like that. But if you are in a space where you can grow any amount of food, even if it's 1 container on your patio, that's something that to contribute towards your own local food movement wherever you are. And that's what I do. We have, we're just under 3 acres here, but a lot of that area we don't garden on. It's just my main garden here, 2,000 square foot of garden. And it's important to me to do what I can in a regenerative, sustainable, permaculture way to grow food and give back to my land, always giving back. Well, that, again, it's so important to me, and I love every aspect of it. But coming back around to where we started this conversation was that it is hard. In August, when it is hot and humid, it is humid here. I'm under an umbrella right now. If I wasn't, my face would be sweating. But it is hot and humid, and I just don't have the energy levels in me this time of year as I do in earlier spring to be outside, to be in my garden. When it's so full of life and everything is just amazing, it also requires a lot of work. And preserving my harvest, I think, is the hardest part of the year. Planting my garden, I can do that. I throw down some seeds and they grow into these giant plants that I really don't do a lot to make that happen. Like that's God, that's nature, right? That's everything that plant needs to grow is in a tiny seed, and it just goes from there. That's not my work. My work is just putting the seed in the ground where I want it, making sure it stays watered, and, feeding my soil as these plants are growing, as this, huge sunflower here is growing. It's taking up a lot of nutrients from the soil to grow so nice and big. And I can help the next generation of plant by putting compost back down, putting organic material back down into the soil to help new future plants grow and produce and all of that. So that's really the work I put in. I put in seeds. I make sure the soil gets some, nutrition added to it, feed the soil. The plants grow on their own. They do all of that. That's not me. But when it's time to pick the harvest, well, that is on me. If I do nothing, the fruits will produce and the harvest will come, and it will ultimately fall back into the ground. And yeah, that can feed the soil, that can feed the bugs and the birds and the squirrels and the rabbits and everything else. That's not a bad thing. But why I'm trying to do this in the first place is, again, to feed my family and to contribute to what I can do in my own backyard to support local food involvement. And in August, it's really hard to do that. Most days I don't feel like preserving 50 pounds of tomatoes, although I'm picking 50 pounds of tomatoes at least twice a week right now. It's a lot. And I'm turning those tomatoes into pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce, and it's a lot of work. It's worthy work, and I'm glad that I do it. When I pull that jar off the shelf or pull that bag out of the freezer, I am so glad I have this. In December, when things are getting cold and I really don't have fresh produce anymore, I'm so glad I have all those things that I preserved this time of year. But in this moment, this time of year, it is really hard. Really hard. I just wanted to share that with you. If you're feeling the same way, I know I've talked to some other people who are feeling the same way. They're in this lifestyle like I am, and you know, it's hard to do it. I have been having a lot of days where I'm like, I'm just gonna take all these tomatoes I picked today and go put them out by the road and say free donation, and that would be a wonderful cause to help my community. There's nothing wrong with that. But why did I plant 60 tomato plants? It wasn't to just give it all away, it was to preserve it so I had the fresh organic produce to feed my family. And that's what I have to do this time of year. So it's like this cyclical cycle, trying to convince myself that this is the hard part of year. This is the time of year where I have to preserve. Preserving takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time to pick and then cut and cook, and then you have to clean and sterilize jars and process the jars in hot water or pressure canners, or you have to blanch the vegetable, cool it off in ice water, package it up in Ziploc bags, or you have to wash the vegetable, cut it up and put it on a dehydrator and let that run for hours, and then do the next batch and the next batch. There's a lot of work involved in it, and I'm tired, and a lot of days I don't feel like doing it. And that's me being completely honest and transparent. In August, I just don't want to do it anymore, and I'd say next year I'm going to do less. I'm going to grow less. I'm not going to do as much next year, because why do I keep making myself feel this way? But then the next spring comes around and I do it all over again, because I'm so excited in the spring and I'm so happy that I had all of that fresh produce. So if you're feeling like I am, just know that you're not alone. It's the hard time of year, and we just need to persevere, keep pushing through, remind yourself of that why do I do this? What is your why, right? If you grow a lot of food, if you grow a big garden to give that food away, and that's your why, that makes you feel good, then keep doing that. That is 100% okay, right? If you want to grow a garden to have produce for your family, then do it, and do the hard work now of preserving it. And I know you don't want to. I feel the same way. I don't want to today. I didn't want to yesterday cook up 50 pounds of tomatoes, but I did it. And my husband's reaction to eating my tomato sauce that I made yesterday, he said it was the best sauce that I've made yet. And that made me feel really good, because I've been doing sauce now for 3 years, and you know, a lot of the different vegetable creations that I feed the family, they don't always love, but to hear him say like, this is the best sauce he's ever tasted, that made me feel really good. And I'm like, okay, cooking all of those tomatoes down to sauce and doing all that work, it was worth it just for that moment, for that one compliment. I know when we have different family gatherings and holiday meals like Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, I'm going to be pulling from my fresh produce preservations to make those meals. And how cool it'll be to have my green bean casserole from the green beans that I grew in my garden this year in November, in December, right? So, you know, just knowing your why behind why you grow food at all and telling yourself that over and over. I'm making this video, one, to give you encouragement, but two, to give myself encouragement, because I have to keep telling myself the same thing. So I figure if I put it out there into the world, we can encourage each other to keep going and to keep growing our gardens, growing beautiful spaces that make us feel happy, make us feel refreshed. Coming out here in the evening when the sun's setting and just sitting, it's one of the best times. And I do look around and I see a lot of work at the same time, but there's rest in the work. So this message here is not to deter you from starting a garden. If you haven't gardened before and you've been thinking about it, I hope this doesn't deter you away from it. I think gardening and growing your own food is 100% the right thing to do. If you can do it in any capacity, big or small, do what you can, make it manageable for yourself, and also know that there is hard work that comes along with it. And I think if you mentally prepare yourself for that and know from the beginning of like, okay, that you know this is going to be a worthy thing and it's going to make you feel good and it can make others feel good in your life, just do it. And know that there's going to be hard parts and there's going to be some struggle and there's going to be moments like I'm having of, I really don't know if I want to do this anymore. But in my heart, I know I do. I'm just a little tired right now. And that's okay. We're human and we can't do it all. Okay, well, that's all I got for you today. I have been recording different videos throughout the summer that I will get uploaded at some point in time. I have taken kind of a backseat on getting YouTube videos uploaded just because it does take a lot of time and effort to edit everything, and I love doing this and sharing and talking with you all, but also knowing, again, that time management. What are the things in your life that you need to prioritize? And YouTube is not one of them. I can't prioritize YouTube because I need to prioritize my family and my garden and my job. So sometimes YouTube has to take a back seat. But through the winter time when I don't have a garden to do, there's lots of time for YouTube. So there may be content that comes out from this summer later on in the fall and winter. But thanks for sitting and chatting with me today. Grow your gardens, and if you want to, you know, leave a comment below just kind of saying how you're feeling this time of year. I'm here to encourage you and to be your cheerleader just as much as I need your support too. And if you could share out this video, I'd appreciate it, because I think more people need to hear this message and know that they're not alone in feeling like it's way too much this time of year. Especially like we're getting ready to go back to school for the kids and all the things that come along with that, trying to wrap up family vacations and family reunions and picnics, and there's just a lot of socialization that happens this time of year because other times of the year it's harder when the weather's not good, and so we try to pack everything into this really short window of time, and it can be a lot, and it can be exhausting, and it's hot and humid, and I'm with you. And I want others to know that they're not alone. So if you would share this video out with your social network, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to do something you love today to make you happy and your heart happy. Take care. Bye.